Welcome back. We're going to move on to methane now. So, this was our second most popular greenhouse gas, so to speak. As you can see by the graph that's in your notes, about half of it is coming from the landmines. It's a byproduct of burning these fossil fuels, it's a byproduct of coal mining. Not really sure where the other's coming from, but this information is coming from the EPA if you're wondering what the source was. The other part of it is coming from manure management and what we call this enteric fermentation. So, enteric fermentation is just the digestion of food by ruminant animals. So, that would be your cattle, that would be your sheep, that would be your goats. These are the animals that have those multi-compartment stomachs. And when they take in all their grass, it has to sit in what's called the rumen. That's the first big stomach. They have really special bacteria in there that help them digest grass because grass is actually pretty hard to break down. It's because of the cellulose that's in there. And a byproduct of that is that methane gas. So essentially, what they're saying by this enteric fermentation is that we get a lot of our methane from cow burps. That's all they're going with is cow burps. It's kind of crazy. But that is where the reasoning is coming from, just eating less meat. Because if you're eating less meat, I'm not saying don't cut out meat altogether. I like my steak. They're just saying you can eat a little bit less, and that means that we would not need to raise as much cattle, which would just basically mean less cow burps. And we're just going to have you're going to see this in your Nearpod. Here's a question for you to answer. Here's a pretty cool video. It's 5-7 minutes long. It kind of starts talking about that methane that gets produced in the landfills. There was some pretty crazy stuff before they were regulating it. I mean, it wasn't unusual for if somebody were to build a house or a building on top of an old landfill, if you didn't know it was there, sometimes there's so much methane gas that was built up that there'd be this huge explosion. It was not an unusual thing to happen. So now we regulate that so that does not occur. So that's a pretty cool thing to watch and see what we did about that. And there's the little quiz that you'll take afterwards as well. Now, this is data that tracks how much of that carbon dioxide and methane is a CH4 one that we've noticed for the last 1,000 years. You can see in both graphs, both the methane and carbon dioxide stays pretty steady up until you get into that 1900 range, which happens to be when we had the Industrial Revolution and we really started using those fossil fuels. So these graphs, this increase in the greenhouse gases really correlates with that drastic increase in temperature that we observed with the other graphs.